Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. I know it's been a couple weeks. Thank you for your patience. Had to get my vaccine squared away and all of that, and now I'm back to making videos. Didn't forget about you. I'm going to continue the discussion today on the Supertrend indicator, and what I have here on my screen is a chart of Ethereum, and this is on TradingView. And just as a quick recap of where we are, a quick reminder, I'm going to pull up the Supertrend indicator here. And I'm going to get this one called Supertrend V 1.0. And if you need TradingView, I'll leave a link below to sign up if you want to use it. So I pulled up the Supertrend indicator and overlaid it on this chart. And you can see here, there's these upper and lower bands. And we discussed how to calculate the basic upper and lower bands in the previous video. And so you can see how this indicator works is that there's this buy signal that's in green right here. That indicates when an uptrend starts. And you can see there's this lower band below the price that's in green. And as long as the price is above this green lower band, then we are in an uptrend. Now, eventually, at some point, this price breaks down and closes below this lower band, at which point that is a sell signal. And I have this red arrow. And then now we have this upper band that's above the price that indicates we're in a downtrend. We're no longer in an uptrend. And it stays that way until the price breaks again above that band. And then this uptrend continues. So you can see this worked pretty well for detecting in October of 2020 when Ethereum was around, what was it, about 386 US dollars here. It breaks into an uptrend after being, kind of flat and choppy for a while. It gets into an uptrend, and this price stays above this uptrend until, I would say, February or so, when there's this sell signal. So this was at $1,481 was the close here when this uptrend breaks. And then there's another buy signal here at about 1900, and there's a new uptrend that started. And you can see right now, Ethereum is up at 2,824 US dollars. And so you can see this indicator looks pretty good when the price is in these strong trends upward or downward. But you can see situations like this one here where the price closed below and we went to a downtrend. And what was the price here? 335. And then there's also a buy signal at 386. So you can see this downtrend here, you actually would have lost money during this period here. So there's cases where things are very choppy and the market isn't really trending where you'll lose money. Same way with like a moving average crossover. So what we want to do in this video is figure out how to calculate this upper and lower band here in Python. So we're going to translate this Pine script over to Python and generate some buy and sell signals. So let's revisit the Python code we wrote in the last video. If you remember, we imported CCXT and pandas, and we connected to Binance to get some price data. So we pulled in open, high, low, close data for Ethereum, USDT, and we did a short time frame. And so let's go ahead and try to make it match what's on the chart here. So I'm showing the daily time frame here. And so instead of 15 minutes, I'll do the daily. And when we show this live trading, let's do a really short time frame just to demonstrate this so I can show it on camera. But for now, I'm going to use the daily time frame. And how many days do I need? Let's go back a few hundred days. So let's say 300 days. So yeah, that's good. We'll go back let's just go back a full year. So I'll do 365 days. So I'll fetch data for 365 days. We load it up into a pandas data frame. If you remember previously, I showed you how to calculate the true range from scratch and also how to calculate the average true range from scratch. And so make sure you understand those terms before you continue on. In order to calculate this basic upper band and basic lower band, what we did is take the high plus the low of the candles and divide by 2. So high plus low divided by 2 is the average. So we got basically the midpoint of the high and low on a given candle. And then we said the basic upper band is the high plus low divided by 2 plus some multiplier of the ATR. And so we're using a default of 3 and we're using a period of 7 for the ATR. And so we calculate these upper and lower bands. So this is the final upper and lower band, if you remember in the definition. So what's the difference between the basic upper and lower band and the final upper and lower band? So if we go back to our indicator here on TradingView and we pop open the Pine script, so I'm going to go to view the code of this Supertrend indicator, right? You see they calculate up equals HL2 minus a factor times the ATR. So we calculated these up and down lines right here. And so watch if I plot these. So this is how they named the upper and lower bands. So I'm going to plot these. They don't plot those by default. And so if I actually plot these, you'll see the upper and lower, basic upper and lower bands here, right? And so in blue here, I have these bands. And so I have my price in the middle here, and then we add some multiple of the ATR to get this upper band, and we subtract some multiple of the ATR to get this lower band, right? So we get the average, the high plus low divided by 2, and then we add some multiple of ATR, and then we subtract some a multiple of the ATR to get the upper and lower band. And now you look at this green and red line, they're slightly different, but you can tell they're related to this basic and upper and lower band, right? So if you look at this lower band here, this green line shows when we're in this uptrend, right? We have the buy signal, and then this green line here is our final lower band. And you can see it kind of stays flat. So I think of this, when I studied this a bit, I think of this as kind of the high watermark of this basic lower band. So you see, as this basic lower band goes up, you see the green band, this final band goes up, but you see when the blue band goes down, you see how it doesn't change, it stays flat, right? So it stays flat all the way until this blue band starts going up, right? Stays flat, the blue band goes up, and then the green band rises with it, right? And so you can see it as long as this gets to a higher and higher mark, this green line goes up, right? But if the blue band goes down, it just kind of stays flat. So basically this green line keeps trending up, and then you're watching for whenever the price closes below this green band, right? So you see it flattens out here, and the price closes below that green band, at which point it flips over and to a sell signal, and then we start looking at this basic upper band, right? So the basic upper band is bouncing around, and you can see this is kind of this red band is kind of the low water mark of this basic upper band, right? So you see it goes down, down, and then you see the red line here stays flat because the upper band is above the previous final upper band, right? And then it stays flat, stays flat, stays flat, right? And then there's another buy signal. And so, yeah, let me see if I can find another example of this, right? So you see this upper band is going down, and this red band goes with it. But then you see whenever this basic upper band goes up, it stays flat. So this one goes down as the basic upper band goes down. And so that's why when we looked at the definition, right, so we have trading fuel, I think is where we looked at the definition of this Supertrend indicator formula. So Supertrend. So when we looked at this definition, right, we had this final upper band and final lower band, and we showed the relationship of those to the basic upper and lower band. So yeah, so let's go ahead and just get into the Python code. I think it might make more sense when we do this. So, but you can see where basically we have a buy signal whenever the price closes above this upper band, right? You have a buy signal when the closing price goes above this upper band, and then you have a sell signal when the price closes below this lower band, right? So let's go ahead and look at how to calculate this green and red line in Python so that we can generate our buy and sell signals. So I'm inside of the Supertrend function here. We have a default period of 7 and a default ATR multiplier of 3. And we calculate the high plus the low divided by 2. We calculate the ATR for this 7 periods, and we calculate these basic upper and lower bands, right? And that's just the high and low divided by 2 plus some multiplier of the ATR, and high-low divided by 2 minus some multiplier of the ATR, okay? And instead of calculating a separate column for final upper band and final lower band, I'm just going to create, store this in one column called upper band and lower band, and we're just going to iterate over the data frame and modify this in place. Now, I don't think that's the best practice, but it works for this case. It's just a small data frame. And so what I'm going to do is just iterate over this data frame. So I'm going to do for current in a range of 1 to the length of df.index. So we're going to loop through basically every row in the pandas data frame. So we're going to start at the beginning and all the way to the length of the data frame. Okay. And then let's just print current so you see what that looks like. So I'm going to print current and print the data frame. Okay. So I'm going to do that. And you see we have 30 days here. And so let's go back to the beginning here. And instead of 1 day, I'm going to get 365 days. And we'll run that again. Okay. And you see it won't show all of the days at once. So I'm going to add a couple lines here. And so I'm going to do PD, and I'm going to copy this. I have this written down. PD, so pandas, set option, display max rows none. And what that will do is display as many rows as I have, right? It won't put a limit. And so I can just see 365 days of price data, okay? And I don't think I need 365 days. Let's just do like 200 days. I think ought to be fine. Okay, so that's about 200 days. So that looks pretty good. And you can see as I loop through, I'm printing what the current row is. So the current row index. So I loop through and you see all these numbers here. And so I have a reference to each row. Okay, so what I'll have is an index for the current row. So I'm going to create another variable called the previous. And so the previous is just current minus 1. So there's a lot of cases in this algorithm where I'm comparing the current row, the current band to the value of the previous, right? So I'm going to keep track of an index for the current and an index for the previous, okay? And so remember what I said a moment ago is that to know whether we're in an uptrend or a downtrend, we're in an uptrend whenever the closing price closes above this upper band here. And we're in a downtrend whenever the closing price goes below the lower band, okay? So let's write that part first. So what I'm going to do is say, as I'm looping through, I'm going to say if df close, and this is the current close, right? We're keeping track of the current close. So we're going to say if the current close is greater than the df upper band previous, so the previous upper band, then we can say we're in an uptrend. So I'm going to say df in uptrend current equals true, okay? Then otherwise, if df close current, so if the current close goes below the lower band, the previous lower band, then we're going to say df in uptrend equals false. And I can initialize all of these in the column. So I'm going to initialize uptrend, initialize in uptrend to true. Okay. So we're going to just initialize all these values, and we're going to flip in uptrend between true and false, depending on if the close is above the upper band or the close goes less than the lower band. Okay. And then else, if it didn't recently go above the upper band or below the lower band, that means it's somewhere in the middle, right? And so we can say df in uptrend current equals df in uptrend previous. That means the trend didn't change at all, okay? And then this one should be df in uptrend current, right? So we're looking at the current close and seeing whether it closed above the previous upper band. And if it did, we're going to say the current in uptrend is true. If it closed below the previous lower band, we're saying the current is uptrend is equal to false. Otherwise, it's just in the same uptrend it was before. So if it was in a downtrend, it's still in a downtrend. If it wasn't an uptrend, it's still in the uptrend, right? Okay. So we've written the code to flip back and forth between an uptrend and a downtrend. So we set in uptrend equal to true right here, and then in uptrend equals to false whenever we hit here. when the close goes above this previous upper band, and when this close goes below this previous lower band. So now what happens in the middle? Well, we need to adjust this lower band here as this basic lower band changes, and we need to adjust this upper band here as this basic upper band changes. So we need to basically make the upper and lower band function like this green and red line, okay? So to do that, all I need to do is in this else, I'm gonna say if df in uptrend, okay? So if we're in an uptrend for the current bar, and df lower band current is less than df lower band previous, then df lower band current equals df lower band previous, okay? And what that does is it calculates this flattening portion here. So what it says is if the lower band is going lower, then just set this final lower band equal to the same as it was previously, right? Otherwise, if it's going higher, then the lower band is going to keep moving upwards, right? So this lower band is moving upwards, but if it goes downwards, then set it to the previous one. And that's what causes the final lower band to be flat, okay? And then likewise, on the flip side, what we can do is say, if not, so if we're not in an uptrend, so if not df in uptrend current, remember we're looping through, we're iterating over the data frame, and df upper band current is greater than df upper band previous, then df upper band current equals df upper band previous, okay? So this is just doing this same flattening here. So we're saying if we're not in an uptrend, so we're in a downtrend here, and we're saying if the upper band's current is greater than the upper band previous, right? So if this upper band, this basic upper band, is greater and going up, we're just going to set it to the previous one. So keep it flat, right? So that's all that's doing right there. But if it's going downwards, right, then the lower band or the upper band is going downwards. And I know this might be a little tricky. You might have to do this a few times. I had to type this out and think about it a bunch of different ways. And I also studied the source code of some other libraries, including Pandas TA here has an implementation of this. And I did borrow some of this implementation from there, but wrote it in a slightly different way that made more sense to me. So this is another good indicator library to look at if you want to see another implementation of this, or you can study the implementation down below here if this PineScript version makes more sense to you. So hopefully that makes sense. You're going to want to go through this in your head a number of times to make sure it makes sense to you, because if I just say upper and lower band over and over again, it doesn't really make sense until you do it and practice it and make some mistakes. So, and I even noticed a mistake right there. See how I have that in quotes? And okay, cool. So let's see if this works okay. So I'm going to print this out again. So I'm going to run this again, and I'm going to need a little bit more than 200 days. I'm going to get 300. Let's get a year's worth of data, and I'll run this. And if I run it, you'll see we get 365 days of data. And let's look at some of these buy and sell signals. So let's look at, see, this is 2020, and let's look at September 5th. 2020. So if I go back, you'll see September 5th. Yeah, so September 5th on the TradingView version, we got a sell signal, and you can see is uptrend is false here, right? So you see is uptrend is false on September 5th. And then you can see how we still have the basic upper and lower bands here. But you see how instead of changing every time, as they did in the previous video, we're modifying it in place. So sometimes the lower band stays flat. So you see it's stuck at 173 here, it's flat, but then it goes up a little bit with that high water mark like we discussed, and then it stays flat again, right? And then eventually the price is going to close below this lower band here, at which point we're going to flip over to a false here on September 5th. So this uptrend is broken. Eventually we get another buy signal. So if I scroll down, you see we get a buy signal on October 12th. If I look here on October 12th, we got this buy signal where we closed above this upper band. Okay. And the price stays going in an uptrend for a while until February 23rd, 24th. And then if I scroll down here, I get a false on, I got February 23rd here. It looks like it's February 25th on the TradingView version here. And then I get a buy signal on April 1st. And I get a buy signal on March 13th. So my data that I pulled shows that it actually closed above right here, and that started the uptrend. So it looks like there's some slight differences on depending on how you're pulling in the price and how the implementation is. So there's a TradingView version here. Sometimes they'll use like an exponential moving average versus a moving average. So if you look on indicators, Supertrend, there's a bunch of different versions of this. So be sure to study exactly which one you want to use. But this is pretty close to what we have here, and I have confidence that it's translated correctly. So yeah, looking pretty good, and we're able to calculate these buy and sell signals and adjust these upper and lower bands in Python code. So I'm going to stop this video for now, and in the next video, let's go ahead and hook up these buy and sell signals to an actual broker. So to Binance, I'll just use Binance here to actually buy and sell based on this indicator, and I'm going to use the scheduling package I've talked about to pull in new bars of data so that we can execute a buy as soon as we receive one of these signals. Like this is basically looking in the past now, but what I want to do is fetch the next bar, see if there's a buy signal, and actually buy. So stay tuned for the next video, and let's buy and sell some Ethereum.